to appear before the regional CID officers to record a statement based on, of course, the allegations of him having forged his secondary school results. So, as you can see, crowds in support of him going there to those police officers. So, of course, we're going to keep a track on this story. He, of course, claims that he's being victimized by this administration, this certificate in particular being a key requirement in as far as being cleared to run for office. So we're keeping tabs on that story for you. And here in studio, we are keeping an eye on all matters politics for you. We do have ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi with us this morning, and Nairobi Governor Kidero. We're going to be speaking politics with them now shortly before we return to the question of the economy and, of course, the budget that is expected to be read out tomorrow. Musalia, let me begin with you. In your own coalition, we have seen varied challenges, in particular an onslaught being lodged by the Kalonzo Musyoka camp and his supporters in the eastern part of the country, insisting, even just days ago, raising the ante, if you like, and insisting that he must be the presidential candidate for NASA. As one who's also seen to be eyeing this position, what are your feelings and what do you think Kalonzo is getting out of this insistence?
Well, I may not know what his strategy on this one is, but clearly as we get closer to the naming of a flag bearer, I would say that he's upping his stakes and he's digging in, and that is precisely within his rights. But what is important is the commitment that we have made that as NASA, irrespective of who will eventually be the flag bearer, we will remain united to having a formidable and united, focused opposition.
And so what gives you that confidence, given the fact that you have said he's clearly upping the stakes? Might the stakes be getting so high to the point where if he does not get that candidature, you still believe he would stick on in NASA? And if so, for what?
As of now, I've not seen any reason to think otherwise, because he has told me at a personal level, he has told us at a personal level, and he has spoken publicly that he is committed to sticking with NASA. So we will take his word for it. And what is important to our supporters out there is that I made some remark in Madare a few days ago, and I said that we should move away from a situation where our supporters say that if it is not Honorable Mudavadi, then those who have been rooting for me will say they won't want to vote. Those who are for Raila would say they don't want to vote if it is not him. Those for Kalonzo say they would not want to vote. And likewise, those for Weta saying they would not want to vote. Then that would be a defeatist position. And it would be a situation where then our supporters will be at the forefront of undermining the unity of NASA. So as far as I'm concerned, as we speak and as people campaign so that the broader NASA constituency can perhaps settle on them as a flag bearer, I would like to just urge the support base of NASA in totality to remain focused, keep the eyes on the ball, and in this case the ball we have is that we want to be able to win the election on August 8th this year in a democratic process.
Yes, you've talked about him upping the stakes. You seem to be doing nothing of the sort. By and large, your politics has been described as different, some saying that you hold similar characteristics to the former president, Mwai Kibaki. Do you view yourself as having certain similarities in your style of politicking?
Well, I don't know whether I'm really like Kibaki, but let me put it this way. If I have pronounced myself that I intend to vie for the presidency, I would like to be the flag bearer, I don't see why I should repeat it at every other function. all right, because I've made my statement.
Perhaps
I've made it very
to show
clear.
interest?
No, I've already declared and I've shown interest. So what we need to focus on now is really to just stay focused, stay on course, and to tell the people that people have different approaches in their campaign. I have my style. That may be Kalonzo's style. But at the end of the day, the rank and file of NASA will have a flag bearer, and key is to support that flag bearer.
And some may say that that style appears either devoid of passion, or even go as far as saying it's colorless. We don't even see from your own home base that kind of enthusiastic support for your position. Are you concerned about that?
I don't think we should all be standing on a rooftop and dancing so that we can express passion. I think people must now be able to look at the content of what you're speaking to, the issues that you want to put out there. And let's face it, Kibaki came in and won with a massive majority in 2002. But if you look at Kibaki's style and you look at Shikuku's style, for instance, there are two different approaches to politics.
Right.
But Kibaki eventually became one of the most successful presidents of the country.
And so you perhaps see some similarities there, though you're not saying it blatantly. I want to show you some pictures, and Musalia, please pay attention to this. Of course, you've heard us talking about what's going on at the coast. Governor Ali Hassan Joho now being flanked by his supporters on his way. Actually, I think he should be approaching right there. Yeah, there you see him approaching the police headquarters there. He's expected to be presenting those papers and perhaps defending himself in as far as allegations concerned, with him having forged his academic papers. What are your own thoughts on this report and the alleged victimization he says he is suffering at the hands of the state?
Frankly speaking, this is a very ridiculous and embarrassing situation for Kenyans at this point in time, because here is a governor who presented his papers to the IEBC 4 years ago. No issues were raised. He has served his 4 years, which will be ending. Then you now wake up and say that his papers are not correct. And it doesn't need rocket science to know that this is politically motivated. These are issues that have been in the public domain for the last 4 years. Nobody has raised an issue about it. And then on the eve of the general election, you want to use a technicality to bar him. So the question is this: in the rules of natural justice, where was this technicality? Why wasn't it used at that time? But somebody wants to try and use it today. Is
the selective application of justice, as the opposition has tried to say is the case involving the Mombasa governor, nonetheless still the application of justice? If something was done wrong 4 years ago, certainly shouldn't mean that we repeat it again in 2017. Do you agree?
Let me put it this way. The way this is being handled is purely politicking. It is not being done in a manner that would show that there was genuine effort. And then the question that arises, does it look suspicious that the focus is on Joho? But we have had stories that may be touching on other people. So why have they focused on this one? It's because they want to use unorthodox methods to eliminate Joho from being in the context of the next forthcoming general election.
And it may be argued that perhaps we're yet to still see action on those other cases which you have rightly mentioned. But at the end of the day, you know, on Monday, the IEBC was here and they said basically what happened in the last election is that there wasn't a rigorous check of the certificates that were presented. And the difference this time around is that IEBC is going to the institutions that are stakeholders in the various matters. For instance, in education, they're working closely with the Education Ministry to verify these certificates, working with institutions within the Education Ministry like NEC, etc. So nonetheless, I still ask, given his results and what he has presented, now that there is this sort of rigorous check, double check in terms of the certificates that candidates are producing, is this then not in any way a positive sign that the candidates who will take part in this round of elections will in fact meet the laid down requirements to vie for these positions?
I think we are headed for a lot of litigation, in my view. The IEBC and the political setup are likely to face a lot of litigation, either even before the election, because people are going to go to court, that their rights are being violated, that they're now being subjected to a situation where in the past they have not been treated in the manner that Mr. Joho is being treated. So as far as I'm concerned, this brings to fore the whole idea, the whole issues around our electoral process. There's a lot of confusion in Kenya today. Even the IEBC itself has been giving us extremely mixed signals, giving Kenyans mixed signals, deadlines that cannot be understood. They are in the process of cancelling all sorts of tenders, and all this is in the preparation towards the election. Now, this is diversionary, but the real issue to Kenyans out there, the real issue remains, is the IEBC properly prepared to conduct a free and fair election?
All right. We're just about to wind up with you, Musalia, but in terms of the, if I can return to the issue of the presidential ticket, and of course we'll be looking at Mombasa in this broadcast, but in terms of the presidential ticket in NASA, when you're saying you're at the end moments, if you like, of announcing that flag bearer, we want a date. Is it first? Is the announcement going to be made at Uhuru Park, as we've heard some intimate?
I cannot make a unilateral decision on that, but somewhere along the line we have to go public, and we'll do it systematically once we have made a decision within NASA. And definitely Uhuru Park.
When will you make that decision?
Uhuru Park may not be a bad venue.
May not be bad, okay.
Yes, it could be a suitable venue for that kind of event.
Okay,
but what I would like to point out is that I know our supporters are sitting on the edge now, but we are about to conclude, and we want to make sure as we conclude we are all of the same mind.
You know, the longer it takes for NASA to give even a date and say by on this date we're going to let you know, be it in a month, in 2 weeks, whatever the case may be, the longer it takes for you to come up decisively and tell the public when you are going to make that announcement, the more it seems that there may be deeper issues within the coalition past the horse trading, if you like, on who will be on the presidential ticket. Are there more issues that are still on the table up for discussion?
I think we have done quite well. If I may just help here, in the sense that as much as there's anxiety, we want to do it right. We have done the first phase where we lodged a coalition document with the Registrar of Political Parties as required by law. There are a few issues that need to be handled. We need to also finalize some regulations in relation to how to utilize or how to share political party funding. We also are working on a few issues around the structure of government. Now, once all these are done, and we have the consensus we want, then we'll go to the final stage, and that is to unveil or name the person who will have been identified as a flag bearer. But we shall be on schedule, because we are not yet time bad. I want to guarantee the Kenyan people that at the right time we will have a NASA flag bearer presenting their nomination papers to the IEBC. And they should not also forget that Kibaki was named just about 3 months in 2002, 3 months to the election, and he won 60% of that vote.
All right. Musalia Mudavadi, thank you for being with us this hour, the ANC party leader and, of course, a constituent party of the NASA coalition. We are also in studio joined by Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, who will be defending his seat on an ODM ticket. Governor, let me begin by just returning to your screens those pictures from Mombasa of Governor Ali Hassan Joho and his supporters at the area's CID regional offices, if you like. What do you think of the woes that have besieged your colleague?
I think it's a very, very unfortunate situation where Governor Joho has been targeted. We've seen it's just not only on his certificates, but also on his taxes. All these years, I mean, he was requested to give his tax, or rather his accounts, for the past so many years since he opened them. Did KRA just wake up and discover that they needed to look at his account? Secondly, on his certificate, we know that Governor Joho was in court. He was taken to court more than once, and he won the cases. And if they had this evidence after the last elections, why didn't they present that he did not qualify to get into university? Yesterday, Governor Joho said yes, he could have gotten a D. And a lot of people don't do well. Alfred Mendel, who's the father of genetics, failed his standard 4. And that did not stop him from being the father of genetics. What
did you get?
Sorry?
What did you get?
Where?
Of course, in your...
I'm sure
you cannot.
I'm sure you don't want to know that.
What were you talking about?
Yeah.
You're talking about your educational qualifications. What did you score?
You don't want to know that.
I do.
I think
I'm a Nairobi resident. I want to know what my
It's fairly obvious
scores.
if you read my face the kind of results I can get.
No,
if
it's
you want,
not, sir.
I could tell you that.
I'm going to hold you to it. What did you score?
In O levels, I got less than 10 points. And in A levels, I had the maximum points you can get in A levels. That's why I started.
How come it doesn't show necessarily in the city's, in the county's leadership, to the extent that people, by and large, remain disappointed with your performance?
I think we need to understand, and we need to go back. I had introduced a little bit earlier in terms of funding. We've not gotten adequate funding. We spent 80% of the funding that we get in the payment of salaries and recurrent expenditures. But the balance of the money that we received, you've seen that we've completely lit the city. Mama Njoroge, who's in Gara, is now able to run her business 24 hours. Mama Kinyi in Gikomba is able to work till 11 at night, selling fish, and I must add, not fish from China, but fish from Lake Victoria. With that, we've been able to increase and build 707 classrooms out of an additional 4,000 classrooms that are required in this city. We've been able to do 120 kilometers of road, Mamawahu, Muhuri Road, Mudiora Road, quite a number. I talked about light. We've been able to build 120-bed maternity hospital in Bagasi. We've been able to increase the bed capacity in Mutuini. We now have a maternity hospital there.
And yet, even with the issues that you're enumerating, there hardly appears to be any excitement around a possible re-election of Evans Kidero. In fact, word on the street is that if you're re-elected, it will be purely out of a Jubilee blunder, their inability to get their house in order in terms of their gubernatorial candidate. I
think it's absolutely not. The opinion polls are quite clear. We've been doing opinion polls sponsored by third parties since 2014, 2015, and I'm always way ahead. So I think the people who want to re-elect me will not be doing so unless they're convinced or unless they know that I'm good for what I promise, and they'll bring me back to complete the project that I've started.
Who would you say your supporters are, Governor? They don't seem very visible.
Nairobi has got 42 communities, and my supporters go right across the 42 communities, both NASA members and Jubilee members.
You've talked about the challenges in funding for the county. That notwithstanding, given your quote-unquote stellar performance in your A-levels, one would imagine then that out of everyone else, you'd be the one to figure out a way around it.
You know, probably let me just take you back a little bit to bridge it to the budget. Probably people might not know, and even is that 70% of Nairobians can hardly get 1 meal a day. One of the things that have been concerning Nairobians, and even now as we go into the budget, is the price of unga. Price of unga has increased from 60 shillings back in 2013 to 150, 160 at the moment. Obviously, the governor is not responsible for that, and probably that's one of the things they want to see being addressed in this budget.
Though as governor, you are in a position to initiate projects that can create employment opportunities to help people be able to put food on the table.
I did give you certain statistics. As a county government, we provide the social services, that is education in early childhood development and in polytechnics, in health, and I've enumerated the successes that we've had in health, including we've had no children are not getting lost and no children are being exchanged. The performance of the economy is pretty much with the national government, and that's when we were talking a little bit earlier on.
What about in jobs? What have you done to help Nairobians gain jobs?
We've worked with youth. We've created programs and projects that in agriculture, in urban agriculture, in providing our women groups with coolers, so that, and that has been able to improve their income on milk from what it was probably 25 shillings a kilo to current 45 shillings a kilo. We're working with youth groups, we are working with women.
That sounds rather vague, Governor. Providing coolers for milk, what else? I'm sure you're aware that because of the improved security, which we are part of because we've put on the lights, we've seen a lot more inflow of companies coming to set up here, that is providing jobs to our youth. And we are working with we've improved the licensing of businesses so that there are a lot more people who are able to do businesses than they were able to do before. Hold that thought, Governor. We want to bring in our Jackie Maribe briefly. As you know, we're following news as it happens across the country. She's outside the courts where that landmark decision has been made in terms of the implementation of the two-thirds rule by Parliament. Jackie, bring us up to speed.
Right, indeed, Kiguta, we've just had that judgment coming from the High Court before Justice John Mativo, and essentially what he's saying, Kiguta, is that he's directed Parliament and the Attorney General, Professor Githu Muigai, to ensure that within 60 days this legislation is indeed enacted or passed rather, and he is saying that this petition that was brought before him has merit. Parliament, both houses, the National Assembly and the Senate essentially breached the Constitution by allowing that time to lapse and not passing the specific legislation which is in the Constitution. If 60 days pass, Kiguta, and this has not happened, then he has directed that any other petitioner can come up and call upon the Chief Justice to advise the President to dissolve Parliament. Now the question here, Kiguta, is we are 131 days to the polls. 60 days days lapsing will leave 71 days. Therefore, will Parliament really feel the weight of being dissolved? Those are questions that we will be putting even to parliamentarians themselves later this afternoon. But what we are hearing from the corridors of justice here is that the onus therefore may have to be on the next House of Parliament to ensure that this crucial legislation is passed, because it is enshrined in the Constitution. And the reactions that we have had, as earlier you had brought lawyer Elisha Ongoya, who was acting for one of the petitioners here, and a number of those who have spoken to us after this judgment was passed, saying it is, you know, that time has come for women to be able to stand up and be protected under the Constitution. Essentially, when they are going to the polls, and more women should be able to feel free enough in a republic that they can be able to go out and seek these seats, but also feel protected that there is legislation that protects a two-thirds gender rule in Parliament. So we will, Ann Kiguta, be following up, especially with that side, of course, of Parliament, because Justice Mativo was clear that this does not in any way translate into a superiority war between the judiciary and Parliament. So we want to hear from them. What do they think? Can they, you know, 71 days to the polls, that is after the lapse of the 60 days, allow this House to be dissolved? Will the Attorney General, you know, act and advise President Kenyatta upon the lapse of the 60 days to advise him to dissolve Parliament? These are questions that we will be putting to them, and as soon as we know, Kiguta, so will you.
Thanks very much, Jackie Maribe, reporting for us. Let's get comment from Governor Evans Kidero of Nairobi, who's with us. Governor, your thoughts on this development?
I think, this is most welcome, that actually the drivers of political system are our ladies, and I think this particular directive and direction by the judge is most welcome. Is a little bit unfortunate. I would have wished that it would have made it shorter, 4 weeks rather than 8 weeks.
Right. Governor, let's return to your politics. Do you have any regrets in terms of how you've managed the county over the last 4 years?
I think, I've done the things that I need to do. The dismantling of the cartels, which probably is what has held this city back over the last 50 years. And
which cartels have you dismantled?
We've dismantled the land cartels. We've dismantled the cartels that supply air and get paid. And I see there is a very concerted effort for them to come back, and I don't think Nairobians will allow them to do that.
What do you think of your opponent, Peter Kenneth, who hopes to vie on a Jubilee ticket?
Peter Kenneth is a very good friend. He's a good friend of mine. Over the years, from the time he was in sports, I was the first person who gave them a sizable amount of money in soccer, and even when I was in Nigeria, he came to visit me. What worries me about him or with him is probably a sense of judgment.
All right, there's a phrase, somewhat. Well, you'll take it as you will, but that goes around on social media and says that if Evans Kidero killed Nairobi, then Mike Sonko will bury it. What do you think of that statement?